Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'd like to turn this over to Tracy Noonan. Well, we're going to do roll call first. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Engler?
Here.
Councilmember Newman?
Here.
Councilmember Taylor?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam?
Here.
And Mayor McNamee?
Here. Now we turn it over to our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor McNamee. We do have one closed session tonight, conference with legal counsel on pending litigation, Martin Flores and Graciela Franco Reyes versus Thomas Halhoub in the city of Thousand Oaks pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A.
All right, let's come to order. Council members, could you come in and have a seat? We'll get underway. And I noticed that the audience got very quiet, so the residents have been very well trained. When someone speaks, thank you, I appreciate that. So we're going to call this to order. We already ended our closed session. We're going to go over to our City Attorney, Tracy Noonan, to give us a report.
Nothing to report.
Would you come up with something better next
I know.
time? Thank you
I'm
very
gonna have
much.
to.
All righty. I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all rise, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There are no requests for continuance or any public hearings. We'll move forward. We have some special presentations. I would like to honor and pay tribute to the residents we have here from Los Robles Hospital. This July, I had the honor of attending Los Robles Hospital System's third white coat ceremony, where incoming residents were presented with white coats and welcomed into the hospital and our community. 40 individuals were welcomed into their program, bringing a total number of residents up to 120. As an aside, it was pointed out that in our community here, myself included, the doctors are over 55, is a good majority of them, now heading towards retirement. Los Robles had the vision to realize that we are going to lose a lot of our doctors here in the community, and one of the best ways to change that tide was to open a residency program, because whether you guys realize it or not, 60% of you or more are going to stay here in this wonderful community because you will never find a better place to live. The other is, it's like the song from Hotel California. When you finish your residency program, you can check out, but you're never allowed to leave. With that said, we have Gabriela Sherman, Chief Medical Director of Los Robles Hospital System, to talk about the importance of the residency program and to publicly welcome the 40 new members. Gabriela, would you please stand up to the microphone? And it should be on for you there, so go ahead.
Thank you. Do you want any of them to come down?
Not
or-
yet. We'll do
Not
that
yet.
shortly. But
Okay,
that says a
great.
lot. They actually applauded for you. This is nice.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the warm welcome and for the introduction. And thank you all for the opportunity to be here tonight. Last time I was here was actually 2 years ago, and some of you may have been here for that. And when we welcomed our first inaugural class of residents, we had 20 internal medicine residents. And as you can see from the crowd this evening, we've grown that number significantly, and I'll share a little bit of that with you. Since the last time I was here, we've added 5 additional residency training programs. As I mentioned, our first class was with our 20 internal medicine residents. And since then, we added general surgery, anesthesia, neurology, emergency medicine, and a cardiology fellowship, which is truly fantastic. So we went from our first class of 20 residents to now having 83 residents on campus. You'll see a lot of brand new white coats and young, fresh faces on campus, which is really refreshing. And by 2026, as you mentioned, we will have approximately actually 150 residents on campus training to be that next generation of physicians for our community. Having a GME program fundamentally enhances the quality of care we're able to provide each and every day at Los Robles and to patients in our broader community. It also importantly trains that next generation of physicians who will be here to care for all of us one day for the years to come. Most studies show that 70 to 75% of residents actually stay to practice in the community in which they train, which is great news for us here in Thousand Oaks. As we know, physician shortages are very real across the entire country. Tonight, I'm joined by our class of 40 new residents, making up 6 of our new graduate medical education programs. And our residents come from all over the country, but many of them actually have ties locally to our community. We have residents who were even born at Los Robles, some of whom volunteered in our facility and are really excited to be able to provide excellent care for the entire community. I think having GME really puts Los Robles and Thousand Oaks on the map for clinical excellence, for clinical research, and just being known as the place to get your care for our community and to really draw patients from all over California to come here. I'd also like to introduce Dr. Tacker, who's here this evening. He's our program director for internal medicine. He started our first residency program, and he helps to oversee all of our residency programs, and he's been a great partner to me and to the entire team here as well. And we're all happy to answer any questions, and I'd like to welcome our residents here to Thousand Oaks. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to say to the residents, welcome to a fabulous city. I refer to Thousand Oaks as the gem of California. We hope you fall in love with the city and seriously stay here and make this your home. We are very, very fortunate to have Los Robles Hospital in our community, and we appreciate all the energy that you've put into developing this residency program that is so vital to the future of healthcare here. With that, I'd like to do the following is to ask the residents to come on down to the dais right here in front. You'll join their council members for a memorial photograph that, yes, you can frame in your own office later on in years. Council, would you join me in front? Residents, come on down. What an exciting time. They describe medical school as drinking out of a fire hydrant turned on full blast, and residency is no different, so congratulations. For our second presentation of the night, we have Julian Fleming, Program Manager with the County of Ventura Human Services Agency, who will provide a report on the homeless service program and homeless prevention. Feel free, Julian, go ahead, come on back up. To the residents here, you're welcome to stay and enjoy this delightful meeting, or please feel free to go and help other patients at the hospital. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome. Welcome. Julian, you're on. Go ahead.
Yes. Hi. Thank you. Again, my name is Jillian Fleming. Is this better? Can you all
That's
hear me?
wonderful.
Okay.
You did well.
Excellent. So again, my name is Jillian Fleming. I'm the program manager for the County of Ventura Human Services Agency Homeless Services Program. Here in the audience is my senior manager, Chris Russell, also with me here today. So just wanted to thank you all for having us here to talk a little bit about our program. We were asked to speak specifically about the homeless prevention efforts that we do at the county. So we'll dive in and do that. So just to start a little bit about what homeless prevention is exactly. So it is part of the homeless response system, really geared at helping people who are at risk of losing their housing and becoming literally homeless. And so the goal is to prevent individuals and families who might be facing those circumstances from becoming homeless, trying to keep them housed. And so that can be keeping them housed in their current housing situation, or it can be helping people move from one housing unit to another without having to experience any homelessness in between. And the services for homeless prevention would be both financial services to help make that happen, and then supportive services like case management to help support these people. And so going into who would qualify as being considered at risk of homelessness, and this would be the federal definition from HUD. One frequent way that we see is people who have received some sort of notice from their landlord. So these would be people who have received a 3-day pay or quit, which is a notice that somebody has not paid their rent on time, and that if they don't pay their rent on time, there is a risk of this moving forward to an eviction process. There is, of course, the actual eviction or unlawful detainer, which is where a landlord is going through with court proceedings to have someone removed from their unit. Or people could be issued a notice to vacate. So this could be because of tenancy issues. It could be because the landlord wants the unit back for their own use, and those are usually a 30 or 60-day notice. Again, those are probably the most common situation that we see. Another one that's frequent is people have received a written notice that they'll be losing their residence. This is usually people in a little bit more informal housing situation. Perhaps they're living with family or friends and they've kind of worn out their welcome. They're in a room rental or something with not such an official lease and have been given notice that they'll need to leave that situation. It could also be people that have moved multiple times in the past 60 days, what people may refer to as couch surfing. So someone who's kind of bouncing around, does not have a home of their own. It could be somebody who is living in a motel that is not being paid for by an organization or a government agency. So this would be people who are paying for a motel out of pocket, or maybe who have family or friends that are helping them with that. And that's not uncommon, where people can afford motel, but maybe not the huge expense to get into an apartment, or the not able to get qualified for an apartment. And it can also be someone who may be exiting an institution and do not have housing lined up for when that exit is coming. So this could be people in a transitional housing program, maybe someone who's incarcerated, someone who's been in a hospital or a skilled nursing facility stay, and their exit is approaching. And so in addition to those different housing situations, to be considered at risk of homelessness, someone has to also not have an alternate option. So they don't have somebody, family or friend or someone else that they can stay with on a long-term basis, and they don't have financial resources or a support network to get them out of that situation or to get into a better housing situation. And so if they meet those kind of either housing criteria at the top and don't have the support to kind of prevent the loss that's going to happen, they would be considered at risk of homelessness. And so this, then going into a little bit about the services that the County of Ventura Homeless Services Program can provide for individuals and families facing this situation. Do want to give the caveat that there are additional eligibility criteria for our program, mostly related to income, residency, some things about the rent and rent amounts that would apply before people are automatically eligible for these. But so we have financial assistance to provide people. This can be help with a security deposit. That can be a really large expense that people are not necessarily prepared to pay. So a deposit to help them get into a rental. For people who have gotten behind on rent but could stay in that rental if they were able to get caught up in current. So their landlord wants to work with them. We can help with rent arrears. And then we can also provide short-term rent assistance. So short-term typically means a couple months, maybe up to a year, 18 months on the long end. And so this could be kind of ongoing assistance where people are getting some support with their rent on a monthly basis, but more commonly for us, people are getting a little bit of assistance here and there. They're maybe doing it on their own, then sometimes something happens, maybe a car breaks down, someone is out of work for an injury or an illness for a period of time, and they get behind again and they need a little bit of support, and then they're able to kind of catch back up again. And then there is also utility assistance available through our program. Sometimes if people have experienced some sort of financial hardship and they've gotten behind on rent, or they're moving into a new rental, they may also need help with the utility deposits, or they might have some utility arrears that they need help catching up on. So that can be something that we can provide in certain circumstances. And so the financial assistance, obviously very helpful, very useful for people who are in a tight financial position. But I think what we kind of value even more is the supportive services that follow, because people are getting into the situation for a reason. And so Our goal is to work with them to kind of figure out what has been going on, maybe what challenges they're facing, and to get them connected with supports with the idea that this hopefully won't happen again and we can really get them in a more stable situation. So for everybody that we provide financial assistance to, we follow them and provide case management services. That's typically a meeting at the person's home at minimum once a month for 6 months. Really try to tailor it based on the family and their situation and what they need. So sometimes it might be twice a month or once a week, and it might go on for a year or 18 months because they really need that level of support. And so again, it's kind of identifying what challenges that family might be facing and helping them work on a plan and get connected to resources to get in a better position. We also provide housing navigation. So we have a woman on our team who is a housing strategist, where her whole goal is to interact with landlords in the community, work on engaging them, meeting new landlords that would be willing to work with some of the people that we're working with who maybe don't have the best credit, maybe have some tough housing history, maybe don't make 3 times the rent, and to try to find people that would be willing to work with our program. We also provide landlord mediation and advocacy. So sometimes if someone has gotten behind on their rent, or if there's been challenges that can strain the relationship with the landlord. And so our social workers will kind of help be that liaison or mediator with the landlord to try to preserve that relationship if it looks like that'll help them be able to maintain housing. And again, the whole time that we're following up with the household, we're also able to follow up with the landlord and checking in and try to be a support for them too, to make it a successful housing situation. And then finally, connection to resources. Mentioned that people have different challenges they're facing, so this could be help, getting employment resources, getting connection to benefits, childcare support, food pantries, kind of whatever different supports might help, again, get that family into a more stable and secure situation so they can maintain their housing. And then just to share a little bit about our program performance with homeless prevention specifically for last fiscal year. So our fiscal year runs from, this data specifically is from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th of 2023. So during that time, the Homeless Services Program had 4 different grants that provided homeless prevention assistance, so all of which had both the financial assistance and the supportive services that I just mentioned. So between those 4 grants, we served 132 households in total. That breaks down to 404 people, 183 adults, and 221 children. So I think the numbers, it's a pretty significant impact to our community. A lot of families and individuals that might otherwise have been in the streets or shelters or their cars that we were able to keep housed. Can see spent just over $700,000 in that time on direct financial assistance. So the direct financial assistance is specifically the security deposit, the rents, the utility assistance. And so that breaks down to about $5,300 per household that we served. And of those, about 2/3 of the household just received the one-time assistance, and then they were able to kind of take up the rent payments on their own and maintain their housing without additional financial support from us. And about 1/3 of them receive financial assistance 2 or more times. So all of those, that assistance is specifically for the financial piece. The supportive services were there regardless. And then what I'm really proud of is the success rate of 96% of the cases that we closed remain stably housed at case closure. And so case closure for us isn't necessarily a specific date. It's, again, we're providing that kind of individualized service based on what the household needs. So it could be 6 months in, it could be a year in. Really try to keep people open until they get in a good spot, but to have 96% of the people close with us successfully is something definitely very proud of. I think shows the benefit of what we can offer. And so that really closes what I was going to share. Just the final slide is our program's contact information. This is our general phone line and email. So this could be used both if anyone has follow-up questions or if there is anybody who may be in need of services could reach out, and calls and emails will be routed appropriately. So with that, I wanted to be available to answer any questions that the council may have.
Ms. Fleming, thank you for a wonderful presentation. Homelessness, housing, it's quite a challenge that we're facing as policymakers here on the dais. Council questions, we have Mr. Adam, you have a question.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm really glad you came this evening because I think the key word in your presentation is prevention. Prevention. David's mentioned that many times about the dealing with homelessness, the best way is to keep people in their home. They don't have homelessness. And here on our level, we're very concerned about homelessness, and we're converting a motel for permanent supportive housing. We're working on some modular housing, but those are for people that are already homeless. Your program keeps people in their homes before they reach that state, which I think is fantastic. That success rate of yours, too, is amazing. 96% that you've given financial assistance to have been able to remain in their homes. I really appreciate that. So, considering the critical nature of homelessness in Ventura County and other counties, do you have any money left in your budget? I would think that, it's so prevalent that you would be constantly spending to keep people in their homes, and maybe difficult to replenish, or?
Yeah, I think the county has been lucky that we have been able to access different grants and kind of funding sources from the state to help provide these services. So it's not just county funds, we're out there looking for resources that might be available so that we can replenish those that we spend and that we maintain the ability to help support these families.
Well, it's really a vital service. You might have seen there was a study, I think it was by the County of Los Angeles. It's a 5-year study on homelessness, and they really came up with the root cause was people being priced out of the homes, apartments, whatever that they're in. I mean, if you're being charged $1,500 a month rent for an apartment, all of a sudden it goes up to $1,900, you can't afford it, and next thing you know, you're out on the street, homeless. And it's very unexpected, but for some people it's that close. So you can fill that gap to keep them in there.
Yeah, that is something that we see, unfortunately, quite a bit, is that rent increases really, they take a toll on people. People are living on some tight budgets, and housing here is quite expensive, and so those rent increases can really be impactful. There are some where we are able to kind of fill that gap and help for a period of time, always with the goal that, it's not forever assistance, that we're helping people get in a better financial position, or come up with maybe alternate plans to be able to afford it. There are other situations, unfortunately, where we may not be able to assist in that situation because we do look at the sustainable piece and have to realize that our funds are not forever, that so we help as best we can, but certainly there are others out there that we can't always assist.
Yeah, I guess you have to judge the potential success rate because, you want people to stay in their homes and you want to be able to assist with that. Well, you're really providing a great service, and frankly, this is a good education for me, and I hope to be able to maybe send you some referrals if it happens to come up.
Yeah, well, thank you for the kind words, and yes, we are open to referrals. You can send them our way.
Thank you very much for being here.
No, thank you.
Mr. Engler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. It's homelessness and interventions in homelessness is a multi-level interventions, and you're doing something, as my council colleague said, you're preventing homelessness, so thank you for that. Just a couple quick questions. In the last few months, we've been discussing senior mobile home parks and those types of facilities. One of the things that we're concerned about here, I think, is an increasing number of older citizens who are having increasing difficulty in staying in their homes. Are you finding that same type of situation?
We are seeing that there is a lot of seniors and older adults who are often living on Social Security or some other fixed income where it is a challenge. In fact, this is not homeless prevention, but we have another program that we're kind of just implementing, kind of geared towards older adults, kind of for that very reason that we're seeing that. So yeah, I think it's fair that that's happening countywide.
And then I guess my second question, somewhat as Mr. Adam has mentioned, how do folks access this? In other words, is it through the continuum of care, through the county? How would we tell folks to access these benefits and this help?
Sure. So we participate in the continuum of care, and some of our funding does come through them, but our agency is kind of its own entity. And so that contact information we have there is something that people in need of assistance could call us or email us directly. And so just a little bit about what happens is that we have some staff that will, we do return every call and every email that we get. They'll kind of do a brief assessment to see if people meet some basic criteria. And then the case would be assigned to a social worker on our team that would really kind of deep dive into the situation a little bit more and help kind of process their application for assistance and determine eligibility. But all of that happens in-house with homeless services.
So folks don't necessarily have to have a referral, they can go directly to you.
Correct. We accept referrals from outside, but people are definitely able to self-refer.
Mr. Taylor.
Thank you again for the presentation. I have two questions. One's kind of piggybacking off Mr. Adams. Are you having to turn people down just because of lack of either support, infrastructure, or finance on your end? Or are you guys able to at least help? Because it's a pretty specific group, it seems like, that you guys are helping. Are you able to help everyone, or are you at max capacity? I guess is the easy way to say it.
Sure. So I want to clarify, we were asked to speak specifically on homeless prevention, but we do have other assistance at our at homeless services. We have rapid rehousing, and we have some other programs to help people who are literally homeless. In regards to the capacity, we've been lucky that we have been able to access kind of a variety of grants and funding sources, or we have not had to recently, at least for the past several years, return someone away because we're out of funding, or we've run out of financial resources to assist. I think more than anything, that sometimes we're not able to kind of get back to people maybe quite as quickly as we would like because of staffing challenges that I think a lot of people are dealing with. But we don't have a wait list. We return every call. We do get people through if they meet basic eligibility criteria to a social worker, and we really try to prioritize where we're dedicating our time and how we're managing that with how urgent someone's situation is. So if it's really a crisis situation, they seem eligible to try to kind of expedite that, maybe more than someone whose landlord might be a little bit more flexible.
Right. And then on I believe it was 34%, I think was the percentage on people that have to need assistance for multiple months, or
Yes.
do you know what the average maybe time of assistance is for that category?
I don't have that. It's something that I could look into and get back to you on, but I don't have that number offhand.
All right, and this might be maybe not the greatest question since a 96% success rate is so high, but out of that 4%, is there a common struggle or challenge that you see that maybe is the greatest hurdle to overcome? But I mean, 96% is so high. That's out of this. That's so good.
Well, thank you. But pretty proud of it. I don't know if I would say there's a common one I could pinpoint. There's a few maybe more common reasons.
They're curious also. So
yeah. Yeah, but there's not a top reason I could say that is the most common. I could maybe look at our data a little bit more and get back to you on that one too, though.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mayor, would you mind if I addressed Bob's question on the referrals? Jillian, do you also take referrals from 211? Is that also a resource for people?
Yes, absolutely. So 211 tends to make referrals through a database that we use that a lot of other homeless service providers use. So yes, definitely 211 is well connected with us. And usually if there's another homeless service provider who maybe isn't able to help or doesn't quite do what we do, but they also work with this population, they're able to make referrals to us as well in that database.
Ms. Hardy, thank you very much for that observation. City manager and myself, we're going to bring up 211. That has become my go-to when people ask me questions and I don't know the answer. 211, they've got the answer. They'll tell you where to go. So thank you for bringing that up. Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for not only for your presentation, which was excellent, but also for this preventive service that you're providing. And the preventive part is so important because the next step is so much worse for everyone. So thank you for that. I don't really have a specific proposal or question so much as an ask as you continue this 96% success rate going forward. If there are things that the county can do, or we as individual cities can do, to strengthen this kind of approach going forward and on a regional basis, because sometimes this is a regional problem and not a point problem. If there are things like that, please come back and please let us know what those would be. Because, we're in relatively good, depending on who you speak with, relatively good economic times now, but if that changes, those numbers could go up, and we'd like to protect that 96%. So if there are things that we're not doing now that we could be, we should be talking about that.
Okay, yes, well, thank you, and yes, agreed. I think the partnership is the best way to deal with an issue like this.
Ms. Fleming, you're feeling a definite market need here. Housing has become such a critical issue, especially with an 8.5% inflation rate last year, and I think it's higher than that if you include food and energy. So staying in a home has become quite challenging for many families, even on a fixed income. With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for that update, and wish you all the very best continuing the good work that you do. I'd like to turn it over now to City Manager Drew Powers for any additional comments.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. Appreciate you coming down, both of you. Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to take a moment of privilege here to acknowledge a member of our team. We don't get to do this very often, but I wanted to ask if Senior Deputy Tom Fuchs could come up to the podium here. So I think many of you here, I know the council's very familiar with Tom. But Tom has been promoted and will be departing the Thousand Oaks Police Department and moving to another assignment, hopefully to only be redeployed back to us at some point very, very soon if we all put in good words. But Tom has served on our Vulnerable Population Officer unit for just under 2 years. And I can say unequivocally he's made a transformative impact in the way we have been able to manage and address what is the greatest challenge for public service today. And he's done it with a level of drive and humility and compassion that I think is rarely seen. And he faced some tremendous challenge. I just want to rewind the council back to when Tom came into this post in October of 21, and we were dealing with a large encampment at the Jans off-ramp that Caltrans was frankly refusing to deal with. And despite all of our efforts and advocacy, it was Tom, in working with Chief Paris, made that breakthrough, that created that relationship with Caltrans, which resulted in getting that addressed and subsequently allowed us to take a proactive approach in so many different areas. There's so many stories about the impact that he's made, balancing enforcement with compassion and services, with out talking to concerned citizens. Anybody that had a question or wanted to talk, Tom was there throughout his tenure in this role. We had situations where we had private property encampments, and him and his partner would literally drive to the private property owner's home in the valley, out of town, and have a filled out order for them to sign that they could run back to the court. I mean, going above and beyond, I can't stress enough the efforts that he put in. You don't see it every day. And I would have been remiss not to have him come in front of this group and just acknowledge the remarkable work that he put in here. I know Chief Paris echoes this, along with the entirety of our executive team. It has been such an honor and a privilege to work with you. We are super excited that you're moving to bigger and brighter things, but hopefully we'll see you back in the Thousand Oaks Police Department soon. And if you'll do us the honor, we'd like to take a picture with you up front, and we have a little certificate for you.
Of course. Thank you.
Would you like, before we?
I don't have anything prepared, but it's been an absolute pleasure serving the citizens of Thousand Oaks, and this has been by far my favorite assignment.
Is there anything we can do to negotiate on your behalf with Chief Paris to keep you?
I'm afraid not.
Council, come on up to the front. Have a seat, Tom. Thank you, sir. We would like to tell a story. Going over to Councilmember Engler. Bob, you're on. Story time with Bob Engler.
Well, thank you. No, I echo a lot of what our city manager said, Tom. You were a very great asset for the city, and on one of my ride-alongs with you, we saw, I mean, you know all of our people who are unhoused and know them on a first-name basis. And there was a young guy, 20, 25, walking over by the mall. He said, as he's talking on a phone, he said, "Oh, hold on, the cops are here." "Oh, no, he's cool. I know this guy." And that's the relationship you had with our unhoused. And I appreciate how you brought that every day to the job and really made a difference in town.
Thank you, Tom, from the behalf of the City Council. Thank you so much. Big hand for Bob. Tom. Now you may go if you wish. We're going to item 8, public comments. Madam Clerk.
This is the time and place for public comments. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. 2 individuals have requested to speak, and pursuant to council standards, speakers are allowed 3 minutes. The yellow light displays when you have 1 minute remaining.
And Madam Clerk, confirming I've got 2 here on the list. Is that correct? Excellent. First up, we have 3 minutes. Again, at 15 seconds to go, I will say very softly, 15 seconds, so you can wind it up because I will call the next speaker. And then after that, we have Pantee will be up after that. John, go ahead and step up to the microphone. Feel free to begin speaking when you're ready, and we'll start the clock at 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, howdy everybody. My name's John from Thousand Oaks. I'm here to talk about ADU codes and SB 9 lot splitting codes. I want to buy a house in TO, and I want to tear it down and then split the lot, and then build a duplex on one lot and a house and an ADU on the other lot. So I did a title search at the recorder's office and found CCRs and HOA rules that I can't violate. Even if I'm told that the new codes supersede the CCRs. This is misleading to your constituents when you tell them the ADU code supersedes the CCRs and stuff. So I would think that you would want to clarify to your constituents that these changes to the codes are not meant to exempt them from existing agreements, like CCRs and HOA rules, so that your constituents can be fully informed prior to spending a lot of time and money trying to build or modify their property. Your constituents could inadvertently violate their existing agreements, exposing them a great deal to liability risk, because their neighbors could easily sue them for violating the CCRs and other existing contracts that run with the land. Now, the courts have held that the U.S. Constitution prohibits governments from violating your right to contract, unless they're discriminatory, against personal attributes. But those ones don't matter because they're void and unenforceable because we've got the Civil Rights Act. So let's not waste a lot of time and money on those. The U.S. Constitution, in Article 1, the legislative branch, Section 10, says, among other things, it says, no state shall pass any law impairing the obligation of contracts. But there's a solution. We could put a notification at the top of the applicable municipal codes and the applications and checklists stating the following. This does not exempt you from other existing deeds, CCRs, HOA rules, or other agreements or contracts. So let's think about that. Maybe we can put that in there because it is a little bit confusing when you're going through the application process and looking at the codes, the new codes for SB 9 and ADUs. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Also, I just want to say I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys every day to ask God for assistance in making the right choices in what you all do. So God bless you all. And I've got a copy of my notes, and I'll just give it to the secretary, and she can give you all a copy of this if you want it, or not, whatever.
Thank you. Next up, we have, and by the way, I did not want to interrupt you as you're saying such wonderful things about us. Thank you. Pentia, you're up. You have 3 minutes when you begin.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to, my name is Pentia Churumi. My husband grew up here. I moved here from Germany. We have 2 children that go to Hillcrest Christian School right here in Thousand Oaks, and we're proud residents of Thousand Oaks. We're also first-time property owners on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. We purchased the old Arby's, which was a dream come true, and we're turning it into a pediatric dental practice. I wanted to thank, I'm here to show my gratitude to the city of Thousand Oaks. It's an honor to be here. I wanted to say that everybody at the city was very helpful. The process of getting permits was very stressful for us because it's the first time we're doing this, but everybody was helpful. And last week we had an incident where someone tried to scam us. They came on our property and offered that they had some leftover cement from asphalt from a neighboring property, and they offered to fix the driveway, which is very bad, and we really didn't have a budget to fix it for now. And he said, "Oh, we can fix this. We have leftover material." And I said, "Here's my number. I have to go pick up my children. Please contact me." The next morning, I arrived at the property, and half of our driveway was done. It looked wonderful. I said, "This looks very expensive. Can you please give me a price?" He said, "Do you want to finish the rest?" I said, "Obviously, it looks amazing, but please give us a price." He suddenly said $42,000. And we were just shocked. I told him that I cannot make any decisions on my own over $5,000 and that I need time to think about it and discuss with our partners. And suddenly he became very pushy, and I said, "Please stop," and until we know what to do. Anyways, I made one phone call to Mr. Sean Moradian, the president of TOBA, because it didn't feel right. And he, within 30 minutes, was there. He said, "These people are doing this to other properties. Apparently they come, if you don't pay them, they put a lien or something on your property." He was there within 30 minutes. Mr. Nader, Haydari, I believe, also was there within maybe less than that. And immediately they tried to figure out what's happening. They called the police. The police, Thousand Oaks Police, was amazing. They arrived there within a few minutes. 2 police cars were there for half a day. They protected my husband. These people became very aggressive. They started threatening my husband, and it was just a terrible experience. But I wanted to thank you guys and the TOBA and Mr. Sean and Mr. Nader and the police department, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to handle this situation. And they really protected us and helped us get out of this extortion situation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
your
those
time.
very kind words, and I am proud of our city staff for being so responsive, including the TOBA and Mr. Moradian, who did a terrific job. Chief Paris, can we call you up to the microphone to comment about these scams that are going on and any guidance along those lines?
Yeah, I mean, this one, I mean, the real guidance is do what you did and get other people involved that can help out. So I'm really glad that she called. I got a call from Mr. Moradian and got a couple sergeants over there. So yeah, she did the right thing. It's you got to call people in when you start, especially when people start getting aggressive or pushy with you. That's a good sign that it's a scam. So good job at recognizing that.
Now, mind you, we have all of like 12 people watching right now. So to get the word out, if perhaps the local newspaper would give you a call and interview you and put out the word through the newspaper. I'd like to turn this over to our city manager, Drew Powers.
Absolutely. I was just going to echo the same point there that, you might not realize it, but word of that in real time made it all the way to me and to others on our team. So, we knew that was being addressed. So appreciate you taking the time to come down here. In regards to John, your comment, I know Mr. Kearns caught you. Hopefully you guys can chat in the lobby for a minute or find another time. He's the best guy. There's no question in the world that the state of California has made housing in this arena with SB 9 lot splits and the overlay of CCNRs and HOAs extremely challenging. And so we can help wind you through that. Steve's our planning division manager. Be happy to chat more detail about it. So thank you.
Message we'd like to send out from the city is don't try to come here and do scams because we stand behind our people. Our senior engineer, Mr. Hadari, thank you so much. Chief Paris, please thank your sergeants and everyone else who responded to the TOBA, and the president, Mr. Muradian, thank you so much for caring about the city. So thank you for sharing that story with us. I'd like to move on to our consent calendar. Any questions from council on the consent calendar? None. I don't see any speakers, is that correct? Excellent. So can I have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
Moved.
We have a motion by Councilmember Engler. Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councilmember Engler?
Yes.
Councilmember Newman?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamee?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0.
Excellent, thank you. You do that so well. Let's move to item 12, department reports. First one, we have Thousand Oaks Alliance for the Arts Operations and Programming Update. We have David Mead, TO Arts Chair, who will do the presentation. So David, we'll give you a few moments to get set up, and please proceed.
Whenever you're ready, I'm ready.
Ready when you are, sir.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor McNamee and council members. On behalf of TO Arts, I'm proud to present our report covering TO Arts operations and programmings for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Under the governance, and we have some slides obviously up there, so that we had an ad hoc nominating committee of the board undertook a blue ribbon committee process whereby they invited members of the community to a one-time 90-minute session to learn more about TO Arts and to have the attendees suggest people who, from their networks, who might be able to serve on the board. And with that, we were intending to broaden our board membership beyond our own personal networks and come up with, more differing members. Because as you know, most of us are getting older on the board. And so we're happy to announce this year we invited 2 new members to the board, Sean Rendaneo and Elizabeth Valencia Munoz, to join the board. And we're very happy with how that's turned out with them. We also convened a inclusive advisory council comprised of key leaders who represent diverse communities to help inform and advise staff on current and contemplated programming and other initiatives to help ensure our community is a place where the arts thrive for all. On a sad note, unfortunately, this summer has been a tough one for the board and for the Thousand Oaks community as a whole. We not only mourn the loss of Bob and Patty Berry. Bob was a former board member, and both of them were donors to TO Arts. We also lost 2 dedicated advocates, supporters, and board members. Kathy Jeffers-Volks joined the board in 2020 after serving as president of the Angels of the Arts Auxiliary Group. It's also fitting that we are presenting to you tonight as you are adjourning tonight's meeting in memory of Eloise Cohen. I know I saw Tom and Chuck here. Thanks for being here. We're gonna miss Eloise. She wore many hats as a friend, supporter, advocate, and was our vice chair. She, her involvement with TO Arts, the Alliance, and the theaters cannot be overstated. She was intricately connected to the arts and education in our community. All of them are going to be greatly missed on that. Next, on finance, we reviewed and accepted the annual independent audit report for our fiscal year 2021-2022 at our meeting on March 9th of this year. The audit report provides a written opinion of the auditor regarding our financial statements from July 1 2021 through June 30th, 2022. In addition, I'm sure the council members will be happy to hear this. In an effort to reduce our reliance on City of Thousand Oaks staff for day-to-day operations per the original intent of the merger committee, we have contracted with an independent bookkeeping service to divest the finance function from the city's finance department. So we're happy that we're starting to do some of those things there. Next, on development, we hosted our annual gratitude reception in May in person here in the Shearer Forum. We successfully surprised former council member and arts advocate Claudia Bill de la Pena and honored her with our Lifetime Heart for the Arts Award. The expression on her face when we announced her name was truly priceless. I mean, I think she was shocked, but it was a well deserved and award for her. We believe it's important for TO Arts to be engaged in and support the community in a variety of ways. And as a result, we are sponsors for different events and organizations throughout the year. Additionally, our associate director serves on the Thousand Oaks Rotary Scholarship Committee and on the board of directors for the Greater Conejo Chamber of Commerce. She also graduated through the Chamber's Leadership Conejo program last year. Our program and development coordinator is participating in Leadership Conejo this year also. In addition, our TO Arts executive director serves on the board of Art Trek. Next, we have some information on our programs. Our first program, Access Arts, as we've discussed before with you. Through this, we support elementary schools to provide high-quality sequential arts education to students throughout Ventura and northern Los Angeles County. This past year, TO Arts provided funding to local elementary schools, as well as Port Hueneme School District, an elementary and middle school district of 7,500 students. They sought to create a strategic arts plan, much like CVUSD did last year, to develop scope and sequence for arts programming across all grade levels. Closer to home, we helped Acacia build an outdoor stage. We provided dance lessons at Westlake Hills and theater arts at Ladera Stars, among other items that we helped this year. In addition, in terms of teacher professional development over the course of 2022-2023 school year, local elementary school teachers received 3.5 days of continuing education to use arts integration in their classrooms to teach English language arts, social sciences, and support social emotional learning. By empowering and educating the teachers with new tools and skills, we can exponentially reach thousands of students who will benefit from these new ways of incorporating arts in the classroom. Our next program, Kids in the Arts. Obviously, we believe it's important for arts education for elementary school students, and that's one of our main things we do in TR Arts, among others. Not only do the students learn from watching a live theatrical performance, they learn how to participate as a member of the audience, listening and watching respectfully, applause at the appropriate time, entering and exiting the venue in an orderly manner, and interacting with ambassadors to be guided to their seats. I'm sure you'd appreciate that here, like people are learning in the council chambers how to act. Last year, we were able to provide free tickets and transportation to 3,200 students and teachers representing 34 schools to see 2 different school shows, Grace for President and Grimm's Fairy Tales. In addition, in a wonderful new partnership with Westlake Women's Club, they donated and delivered the book Grace for President to all 20 classrooms a week before the performance. This additional resource was very well received in the classroom as the students were better prepared to experience the play. We have a new program, Family Pack, that we've started, which helps families make lifelong memories at the Bank of America Performing Arts Center. This program provides low-cost or complimentary tickets to families who otherwise would not be able to attend a live performance. Last year, American Theater Guild, which is Broadway in Thousand Oaks, partnered with TO Arts to make over 100 tickets available for their performances as well. In partnership with the Oxnard Performing Arts Center Foundation, we co-presented Catapult Shadow Dance and made blocks of tickets available to local community organizations to give the families they support. In total, TR Arts gave away or subsidized over 1,000 tickets to 11 different shows. We are continuing our relationship as a fiscal receiver for the Young Artists Ensemble. This group is responsible for a number of fantastic productions presented at the Hillcrest Center for the Arts, as you are all likely aware. Only a couple of months ago, this group incredibly talented young artists presented a phenomenal production of the Phantom of the Opera student edition in this very theater. Next, our Olson Performance Grants. Again, we were thrilled to be able to provide grant funding to our resident art companies, as well as other local nonprofit performing art groups for in-person performances this year. We distributed 148,000, of which 80,000 was distributed to the resident companies, 3 resident companies, in grant funding to help offset the cost of renting the Bank of America Performing Arts Center theaters. Additionally, with a goal to help the resident companies to build greater awareness and attract new audiences, TO Arts has entered into a 3-year contract with Consortium Medium and Marketing from Ventura. This project encompasses research, development of a strategy, and the implementation of the strategy to engage and expand their audiences and help them attract the next generation audiences. We have with us today Denise Bean White, the CEO of Consortium. He'll present to you briefly after my remarks so that you can hear firsthand the results and some of what they're doing to support the resident companies. Next, but not least, we have TO Arts Presents, which is the presenting arm of the theater. Last year, we presented 55 performances between the Shear Forum and Fred Cavley theaters. These performances attracted more than 48,500 patrons. I think that tells us that we're getting out of the pandemic, or out of it, in terms of at least people going out and doing things. As a single largest presenter at the Bank of America Performing Arts Center, TO Arts is pleased to have presented one of the most diverse lineup of performances in the history of the venue. Through our TO Arts Presents events, we provide 63 days of use between the 2 theaters in addition. Additionally, we presented After Dark at Stagecoach, a fun festival-style outdoor concert series, which features an eclectic and unique lineup of entertainment at the Stagecoach. I don't know if any of you attended, but it's coming up, I think, next month, or first one this Friday. We'd love to see you out there. Last year we presented 4 shows with a total audience of approximately 1,000 people. Next, upcoming, and I already said it. We have TO Arts After Dark at Stagecoach coming up for the next 3 Fridays, 4 Fridays, this Friday, and then 3 Fridays in October. As far as TO Arts Presents, we have 48 shows for this fiscal year, and Jonathan and his team continue to add more performances through the season. TO Arts has adopted a $1.3 million operations budget for this year. In addition, we're developing new programs to support youth in the arts in diverse and relevant ways, in addition to presenting 3 field trips which are aligned with curriculum. And new this year, we are hosting a week-long storytelling residency. In addition, with regard to performances, we have an incredible roster of upcoming performances, including an exciting lineup of TO Arts Trailblazers, formerly known as National Geographic Live Series. If you haven't heard the story, Disney basically has put it on hold and probably never coming back. So our great team of people decided to come up with our own, basically show of live artists. And basically we're getting many of the same artists we would have gotten through National Geographic. So we highly suggest you come out and see those. It's a great series. We're also excited to feature performances from the Guess Who, the Blind Boys of Alabama, Tom Papa, Blippi, Brian Culbertson, and so many others. So on behalf of TO Arts board and staff and the millions of patrons who lives have been enriched by attending performances at the Bank of America Performing Arts Center. Thank you, City Council members, the City of Thousand Oaks, for your continued support of our efforts and activities. And now I'd like to introduce Denise Bean White, the CEO of Consortium Media, to share a few slides about the work they've been doing in audience development and what the focus groups and survey research indicates about the arts in around our venue. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Denise Bean White with Consortium Media. Thank you to the mayor and the city council for allowing us to have some time today. Dave is a tough act to follow, but I'm really excited to be here with Nikki from TO Arts and also Jonathan, who have put together an audience development program so that we can really locate and, thank you. We can really locate and build awareness for the Bank of America Performing Arts Center here, the Shear Forum, and everything else, along with the resident companies. It's been difficult since COVID, so this program is really very strategic. It has goals, it finds information, and it does a lot. So our first goal is to reach new audiences. But our most important goal is to take the Bank of America Performing Arts Center and locate it directly in the city. As we know, the quality of life is so much better when you have arts and entertainment in your city. Real estate values are higher. And it's an interesting proposition that so many people here still don't know about the resident companies. So this is designed to affect that. There are some audiences less engaged. They may go to one event, so we're going to look to have them go to more events. So for our research, if you can see here, there's some small lines, which is the box office information about where the audience was coming from. And this is from 2 years of study. And then the black circle around it is a trading area that we have set up so that we can specifically target within an area very likely to attend and to drive here. If you notice, we have some nice density on the right side, just over the border into the valley. And what was really interesting is how amazing that trading area is, because marketing dollars are very difficult to come by, and everyone talks about them. But if you focus them into areas where they hear your message, repeat your message, understand what you have to offer, they're more likely to drive here. So we didn't really have all the research we wanted to be able to look at what are some of the issues that are going on at the Civic Center and also for the resident companies. So we decided to partner with a local university, and we did a survey. They told us we could expect around 90 local survey responses. And I thought, no, that's just not going to do it. It's not even going to be enough statistics to make it reliable. So we asked a lot of different people. We asked foundations, we asked the city, we asked the chambers of all of the areas that do come to the Bank of America Performing Arts Center. We had 991 responses, and 731 were full data. They gave us the answers to each of the questions. So it was post-COVID, so we know now, what is the post-COVID audience expecting? So top line results are, if you look at the circle, the income circle, 494 of the 700 people told us that they are between 60 and 120,000 and 250,000 plus income. That's 78%, so it's a fantastic demographic. 599 respondents were kind enough to give us their ages. And that went to 513 of them are between the millennials and the boomers, and the outliers were the Zs and the silent generation 78 plus. So again, a very large group right within the area and the age groups that we want to target. So what are some of the issues of concern? 40% said ticket prices. We know they drive to Pantages. We have that research. We know they drive to Santa Barbara, and they'll pay $150 to $175 for tickets. What makes the Bank of America Performing Arts Center worth only $60 or less? That's one of the biggest issues that the Audience Development Survey Initiative really has to address. The other thing was 33% say they cannot find information. They don't get enough emails, they don't see enough social media, they don't see enough. So we're developing a program to really help that. And next is, this is my favorite slide. Of 765 people, which is more than normal, that filled out the audience survey, there were a number that wanted to have dinner and a show. There were a number that wanted to have cocktails and a show. There were a number that wanted to follow with their friends. What that came out to be was 642 want to have something to do before the show. And they actually said they didn't know restaurants here. They really didn't know how to do that. So luckily for Concerning, we had already planned that this would probably likely be an answer on the survey, so we went ahead and put together and asked a lot of shopping centers and others to partner with us. So Jan's Marketplace stepped up immediately. It's a lovely marketplace. It's clean, it's safe, excuse me, and they have been really helping us tremendously. They've given us gift cards to do the win a dinner and a show that we know people are looking for. We've got one started already, and it's doing amazingly. So it's really nice when you can come together and build the financial generation that really will happen if we can get people coming and having a dinner and a show, a cocktail with friends, or wander around the beautiful city of Thousand Oaks. It's an amazing place, and it's an amazing place to have such a beautiful performing arts center here, right here located. So the executive summary really is we had 10 times more surveys than what we expected. And that shows a major local desire for drama, art, dance, and other pieces that people want to feel that they have a quality of life to attend here, that they can go out and eat and enjoy the family restaurants in the Jan's Marketplace, Buco de Pepo, some of the fun ones there. And other key takeaways are that we need to amplify the programs at the existing resident companies, Pacific Festival Ballet, New West Symphony, and Five Star Theatricals, which has Oliver starting on October 13th. And then to help build awareness of the dedication that all of you here in the city and TO Arts has to keeping our children informed about music, dance, drama in their lives, because it's so important. Next year, we have already garnered a survey by the Wallace Foundation that shows a clear pathway to children and teens especially learning more and doing better in school and future jobs when they have arts in their lives. So that's it for me. Thank you. Any questions?
Council members, any questions for the speakers? I'd like to say thank you that the arts adds a tremendous depth and enrichment to our city. It's a quality that we'd like to see enhanced even more so. Thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing to bring the arts to the residents of Thousand Oaks. Much appreciated. With that, I'd like to ask the council members if they would like to make a motion to receive the report and not a CEQA issue here. Anyone?
So moved.
Mr. Newman, Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote?
Councilmember Engler?
Yes.
Councilmember Newman?
Gratefully, yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamee?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0.
My thanks to both of you.
Great.
Big
Thank you so
hand.
much.
Next up, we have item B, department reports, initiation of municipal code amendments to update various sections of the planning and zoning code. Speaking for the city will be Nazari Slim, senior planner. Feel free to get settled in and begin when you're ready. Mr. Slim, how are we doing?
Thank you, council members, city staff, and members of the public. The presentation before you is a request to initiate multiple municipal code amendments affecting various areas of planning and zoning codes. The request is, one, to adopt a resolution initiating municipal code amendments as listed below. Residential zones permitted use matrix, allowing a private school use in the residential zones with an approved SUP. Accessory dwelling units to be in compliance with state law enacted under Assembly Bill 2221 and Senate Bill 897, and to implement Program 3 of the city's adopted 2021 to 2029 housing element. C, Title 9, Chapter 4, Article 37, related to Senate Bill 9, the California Home Act, cleanup items to be consistent with state law. D, Title 5, Chapter 17, related to massage establishments, massage therapists, the practice of massage therapy, related to business licenses, regulations, and permits, including potential changes to Title 9, Chapter 4, which is zoning. E, residential large family daycares. That's Section 9-42104 to be compliant with Senate Bill 234. And F, the definition of emergency shelters to be in agreement with recent state law changes. Second request would be to find that initiating municipal code amendments for changes to the city's zoning code is an action exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 1506.1, subsection B3 of Title 14, Chapter 3 of the California Code of Regulations. Just a quick background here. The city's zoning code requires updates to reflect current state laws, community trends, and the vision and policies of the general plan. All the proposed code amendments, except for item 1A, are proposed due to changes in state law. Item 1A is being requested by an applicant that seeks to establish an allowance for private schools within a residential zone. This allowance would, of course, require an approved special use permit. Again, continuing with item 1A, City's Council's initiation of the MCA will authorize and direct staff to evaluate the item by reviewing standards from other jurisdictions related to permitting private schools in residential zones. Such an analysis may include impacts associated with schools in residential zones, traffic impacts during drop-off and pickup times, optimal operational practices, and mitigating conditions for approved associated SUPs. Once staff concludes analysis of the item, a report with the evaluation and staff recommendation will be presented to Planning Commission during a notice public hearing. Subsequently, the Planning Commission will then make the recommendation to City Council. This does meet Council Goal A, by creating a more equitable, accessible, safe, welcoming, and inclusive government and community, regardless of race, color, ethnicity, religion, sex, physical or mental ability, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, age, language, education, and/or socioeconomic status. At this time, staff would like to recommend adopt the resolution initiating the municipal code amendments 2023-7003, 7005, 7006, 7007, 7008, allowing staff to analyze measures to bring the city into compliance with state law. Additionally, it would also allow the private request amendment to be researched, analyzed, and presented to Planning Commission for their recommendation to City Council. And that concludes the presentation. Staff is available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Slim. Council members, any questions? Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Slim, for your presentation. I understand from previous discussions with yourself and other members of staff that at this time, staff is looking for guidance on these issues. I'm also going to ask a more general question on the massage parlor component of this item, which is, to start the discussion on that item, is what tools or what changes to the municipal code amendment would make it easier for staff to ensure that only permitted uses are actually taking place, and that we can more quickly crack down and eliminate any illegal uses. Because the law already, and our city code already says no sex acts at massage parlors. State and federal law both say no human trafficking. So this isn't, we're talking about things that are already illegal. What I'm asking is what do we need to change either in terms of process or in terms of law to have what we, the city, intended when we issued those massage parlor permits?
Thank you, Councilmember Newman. I'm going to start by answering that question. I'll turn it over to City Attorney. It's really, what we're trying to do is join a cooperative effort from other departments, other institutions within the city to better monitor these practices or these businesses, and to ensure a more, just a better outcome in terms of the operational standards. And I'm going to switch it over to Attorney kind of talk more about that.
Sure, thank you for the question. I think structurally the municipal code is going to be very similar to what it is now, but what we're trying to do is to kind of marry the changes in the law with some of the things that we're seeing out there in the community. And I think the main thing is updating our regulations on licensing of these establishments and making sure that they're following through with the rules of the city.
Very good. And as you and I have discussed, but just for the public's edification, this would apply not only to new establishments that come along and apply for permits, but to existing businesses as well, would it not? Because we do issue business licenses every year to all businesses.
Yeah, that's correct. So we would continue to have a licensing program that had various requirements of the businesses, and generally annually, any business, whether it be new or existing, would have to obtain a permit and comply with all the regulations of the city.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is twofold. One, as Mr. Slim mentioned, improvements in process, so more cross-department communication, so planning with legal, planning with the TOPD, other groups, to ensure speedy enforcement. And then two, as you said, Mr. Duran, code amendments to ensure that what is legal is permitted and what is not legal is taken care of quickly. Is that a fair summation?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, very good. Thanks for that. My only other question is on the bringing the code into alignment with SB 9. We had a public speaker earlier this evening who spoke about the confusing situation with regard to what governs when it comes to SB 9. He had also mentioned ADUs, but we're looking specifically here at SB 9. I had understood that SB 9 exempted HOAs, properties within HOAs. Is that not the case? Or is my understanding to an oversimplification?
I can answer that if you want, Mayor and members of the council. I think what you're referring to, it is interesting because it gets confusing as time goes on with these various laws that come into play. You will remember for the Planning Commission days that with the Solar Act, initially you could have a contract, HOA could control that, and then within a year or two they changed the law to say any contract that prohibits solar is void as a matter of law, right? And then you see it for ADUs. that slowly changed where you weren't able to modify it through a private agreement like a HOA or CCNRs as was expressed. And then you have SB 9, which again right now does not have such measures right now, but I think as we go on through housing laws, those again might be changed. I can't say whether it's going to happen or not, but I think your point is that there's changes in the law as time goes on, and they make clarifications or recommended changes as they see how it presents throughout the California.
Okay, so thank you for that walkthrough, and you're quite correct about changes over time, but I'm sorry, but I'm still unclear. I understood at the time we were first talking about SB 9 that it would not affect properties within HOAs, that was off the table. Is that still the case, or is that not the case?
I can answer that. Right now, it's the state law is silent
It's
when
silent.
it comes to that.
Exactly, it's silent.
So CCNRs can actually prohibit or prevent that for now. As it was explained, state law changes over time, and just like ADUs were not allowed before, now they are. They cannot be prohibited.
So it doesn't specifically say that HOAs are exempt from SB 9. It doesn't say anything.
Which is the haziest of all possible scenarios. Thank you for clarifying.
And maybe I'll add to that. I think what experience, our resident that was speaking, it goes into that frustration, right? Different HOAs, but given that it's silent, different HOAs may approach differently.
So we have this question about who's driving. Is it the state?
And
or
I
city
anticipate
control, or-
that, as Mr. Heater mentioned, I anticipate that clarity, if past experience is any guide, that clarity will come through subsequent legislative cycles.
They did it
Right.
for solar, they did it, remember years ago for dish antennas? Remember they did that for dish antennas?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But I also want to put it in context. HOAs regulate a whole bunch of stuff that we might look and say, okay, this fence looks fine, but it might not comply with an HOA, CCNRs. There's a lot of different development standards
Right,
and
and we
architectural
had
standards, yeah.
many, Mr. Heer and I had many cases on planning where we stayed out of it because that was a civil contract between private parties, and that's-
Absolutely correct.
That's,
Absolutely correct.
that's their business, not the city's. But,
That's
but I would thank everyone here for clarification, but I think in this case, I thank you for the Mercification. Thank you.
Mr. Engler, and then we'll go over to Mr. Adam. Mr. Engler, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would agree with some of the comments by my colleague on massage parlors. It seems that this particular code coming from the state may assist us in ensuring that the businesses are legitimate and minimizing some of the non-desirable activities that could occur. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. With this opportunity, we have the ability to go in and make some local changes which was not an opportunity that we had before, being that it was so heavily regulated by the state. So this gives the council an opportunity to add additional requirements or, in some instances, restrictions to prevent illicit activities.
Thank you. Yeah, I would think that that's probably a good move for us to make. I noticed that most of these are language cleanups on state law that has come down, which, this is what we need to do to make sure we stay concurrent with the state directives. There's one, though, that was as a result of a request, and that was the religious or school facilities in a residential. This was because of a person who, or an entity that wanted us to address that. Is that correct?
That is, that is correct. So there is an existing church in town who has a school that K through 8 that they would like to legalize. In order to do that, it would require a code change. And that's just a function of the zone that they happen to be listed in, which is R1 in this instance. In our zoning code, we allow religious facilities in many residential zones. It just so happens that this one does not specifically allow schools.
Yeah, our residential does not allow schools in a residential zone, correct?
In the R1 zone, that is correct.
So the single-family residence zones.
Correct.
So this one entity has, evolved into a school. Why do we need to open the whole box of single-family residence and allow them throughout residential?
In this instance is a bit of a unique circumstance. It happens that there are several religious facilities that currently operate with schools in the R1 zones in the city. There are vestiges that were approved by the county prior to city incorporation or through annexation in the city over time. So in this instance, it really would be allowing this particular religious facility to enjoy the same rights that are enjoyed by some of their other counterparts here in town. Ideally, for something like this, it will be an auxiliary use to the religious facility, which would be the primary use.
I understand that there's some existing non-conforming in this particular group. It evolved over time. I understand that. Again, why do we need to open the entire thing? Why can't we address these on an individual basis rather than opening the whole code?
So, and I'll allow Mr. Hero to speak as well. So in this instance, it may make sense. That's something that staff has to evaluate if City Council allows us to initiate this amendment. Extensive research and evaluation of a code change of this nature has not been conducted yet, being that we haven't received the green light from council. So if we're given the green light tonight, that's something that we can come back with to provide that information before council has to make a final decision to move forward or not with that particular zoning code amendment.
And let me add that that when you look at this initiation, and to your point, we understand your point. I think as we go through the investigation, we go through the analysis, we come up with what would make sense for the conditions and the parameters of such a amendment to our code, and would, by doing those conditions and amendments and specific types of conditions, would we, in a sense, control a little bit better how much we would see from this type of use going into the residential zone, the private schools. So part of that is just exploring, okay, this is what we would recommend as if we wanted to go that direction, the types of conditions or requirements that you would have to meet just to even apply for it. And so that could be such things as minimum size of a lot, maximum size of a lot, parking issues, of course, various factors that you would investigate. And we would also look at other jurisdictions and see how they have done that, because it is common in other jurisdictions that you allow this type of use in a residential zone. And again, is to explore that and say, what are the pros and cons from those jurisdictions, what they have experienced. And that way we come up with a set of standards that we could present to you as part of that, bringing it back for a decision from this body.
If I could add one additional thing. The reason why we have to open it up to everybody is because our zoning code, which regulates uses, prohibits that type of use. The only way to allow this type of use in that zone is through a zone change. So it does apply to anywhere, it would apply to anywhere in the city that has that zone. But to Patrick and Kelvin's point, if the municipal code amendment, in other words, the zone change is initiated, it gives staff an opportunity to look at what type of criteria would be best suited for it. It doesn't mean that it would be automatically permitted in every area. An SUP by definition acknowledges that there are some locations where a type of use is appropriate and other locations where it's not. So we would look at that, but the underlying reason for it is because our zoning code prohibits that use. And you can't just say that one parcel can do it, but nobody else can.
Well, I just know on numerous occasions we've exempted a code for a particular property to change a use that benefits the city for whatever reason on an individual basis. And I don't understand now why we need to open the entire single-family residence neighborhoods for a possible zone change or a use change for the entire single-family residence neighborhoods that we have, many of us up here have said we were going to try to protect. against this type of thing. I mean, the state, as we've all discussed, the state does mandate us to change use in our single-family residence neighborhoods. I'm not sure why we would voluntarily now do that across the board.
And if I can just add one key piece that we've sort of talked around, but it's really core to this particular issue that you're raising. In this instance, we received an application from a private party, and we have a duty to process that. And part of that process is coming forward to City Council with that initiation at this stage. And as our City Attorney and Chief Assistant City Attorney mentioned, by the nature of a use like this, and it being in a zone that is sensitive and that we do want to protect, an SUP or providing appropriate conditions to ensure compatibility, which is something that we do with other uses that have the potential of causing impacts beyond its borders, is something that we can consider and evaluate for this as well. But being that the application was submitted, we are obligated to bring it forward, and that's at this stage right here. And it's up to council to act on that, to either allow staff to continue to move forward with it, or we receive that direction not to, in which case we'll go back to the applicant.
I have no problem talking about it. I just know that in the past, when specific properties have come to us, we've addressed it with general plan amendments for that specific property rather than across the board of entire zoning classes.
So I just want to make sure we all understand general plans, zoning codes, et cetera. A general plan, again, is a general designation. So when we process general plan amendments from commercial, or from like residential to commercial, or commercial to residential, or what have you, it's opening up an opportunity to do any of the uses that are permitted in there. And so then once you have your general plan designation, then you look at your zoning code and it gives you a list of uses. In this particular case, this specific use is not permitted. So I'm not aware of any time where city council has exempted a business or a use that is otherwise prohibited by our zoning code. We've definitely processed general plan amendments to change a property from a specific land use designation to another. But one of the things we also do is make sure we don't engage in what's called spot zoning. And that's where you can't take a piece of property and say, everyone, you're commercial, but this little teeny tiny parcel, you're residential. That's spot zoning, and you're not allowed to do that. You have to have some like commonality of it. Sorry. You have to have some like commonality of the types of uses in the area. So I'm not aware of a situation where we have exempted a use that was otherwise prohibited by our zoning code. But if we did find a use that, or an operation or a business or something that was being done that was in violation of our zoning code, we would take it to you to see whether there was an interest in expanding and allowing those types of uses in that zone.
So if I may just add one other quick maybe idea here or concept to sort of digest. Right now, as it stands, we're working with the R1 zone in this particular case for this particular applicant. In that R1 zone, churches or institutions of worship are allowed. So religious institutions are allowed. We've contemplated, again, this is very early in the stage, we haven't gotten into the full analysis, but we've contemplated this being, again, as a complementary use to that church that's already allowed, much like in the way of a souped-up daycare. And so, of course, with that, we have to analyze the impacts of that. Another limitation we were considering, again, we're very early in the stages, is limiting it to perhaps up to the 8th grade, which would eliminate, for instance, considerations, traffic impacts of students who drive. Again, it's still in early stages, but it's something to contemplate. Your original question is, this was a choice. It was sort of the path of sort of least resistance, is to look at the use matrix itself and not to change the zone or change some other aspect of the zone. It should be noted, however, though, the general plan designation, as it exists today, does allow this use. So it recognizes the use of schools as part of the ordinary fabric of the residential designation. So that's important to know. So we're not doing anything contrary to the general plan.
Nizar, could you answer one question that I think that Councilmember Engler would want to know is there an opportunity to do a rezone rather than changing the zone, the R1 zone, to allow school uses in the R1 zone. Is there a way to legally do a rezone?
To
on
do
this
a
piece?
rezone?
To rezone this particular piece of property. I think that's what you're going to.
Yeah, that's kind of the underlying basis of what I'm talking about is why are we opening up the entire R1 zoning to this discussion when we're really talking about a single property?
So there is kind of a funny situation here, and it's simply put. So churches, which is existing on this site, are allowed in most of the residential zones. So like R1 through, I think, R3, 4. It's not allowed in the TPD and in RE. Okay, so we've established that churches are allowed in the residential zone. However, schools are not. Schools are only allowed in the PL zone. If we were to go ahead and change this parcel to a PL zone to allow the school, we wouldn't be allowed to have a church. So we're kind of caught in that. In that way, there's the paradox is we can't have a PL because the PL zone would exclude the church, and where we would be allowed to have a school, so we kind of back and forth. So the use matrix was a way to address that.
And if I can just clarify one key point to what Mr. Slim just added, churches are allowed in the residential zones, whereas schools are not. When he says that, he is talking about as the primary use. It doesn't take into account an ancillary use to the religious facility, which would be the primary use. Religious facilities have many auxiliary uses, everything from a daycare to schools to community services, a number of things that go along with that. So in this instance, what we're truly talking about is something that complements the existing primary use of a church, which is approved to go there. It's the school that we're really trying to address with the application we received.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But then if that's the case, why are we opening this door? If that's the case, if it's an allowable use already, why are we going here?
The church is an allowable use, not necessarily the school. And we're bringing it forward specifically because we've received an application from the applicant to try to legalize that use there. So as part of it, we would have to evaluate all the options that are associated with that. And as the city attorney mentioned, we can look at other opportunities for maybe reclassifying it in other zones or evaluate other particular sort of nuances to address that particular issue. But we would need the green light from council to move forward to do that.
If this helps to
Again,
clarify.
I'm a little confused because you said that the primary use of the property is as a religious facility, but an ancillary use is they can have a school. So again, I don't understand why we need to look at the R1.
The ancillary use would need to be approved. It's not something that's particularly allowed at this location, and we're simply trying to evaluate whether that's something that makes sense or not. And ultimately, it's a policy decision that the council would have to make, but we're simply bringing it forward because we received that application from the applicant. This is not something that staff initiated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the information.
Mr. Adam, and then we'll go over to Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Well, I guess since private schools aren't allowed in residential zones, theoretically, if we don't amend the municipal code, the school could actually have to close, couldn't it?
That is correct.
Okay. Maybe we better do that then. Anyway, getting back to SB 9, which basically eliminates single-family home zoning in the state of California and allows a lot to be split into as many as 4 units and sometimes 8. I can't imagine any CCNRs here in the city that would allow that, per se. So, Tracy, I don't know if I got it straight with you on this. Are you saying that SB 9 is silent on CCNRs? Oh. So, if a CCR doesn't allow, I mean, who?
No, what I'm saying is that the SB 9 statute, for example, the Solar Rights Act, clearly in the beginning, when the Solar Rights Act was approved or adopted by the state legislature, it too was silent on CCNR. So even though we as a city were obligated to process solar permits, solar roof permits, an HOA could say, nope, you can't do it here. And then state legislature amended their solar laws and specifically said that any private contract that prohibits it, leaning toward, basically focusing on CC&Rs, is also null and void. So they specifically brought CC&Rs or HOA contracts into the statutory scheme and prohibit it. With SB 9, we're back at the silent stage. It basically doesn't say anything. We as a city have to allow all of these different types of things, but an HOA, because it doesn't specifically prohibit them from doing so, an HOA can prohibit certain types of things, including some of the SB 9 regulations.
I see. So the HOA and the CCRs would prevail.
Well, remember, CC&Rs are always, the way that the whole operating mechanism with development is that you have your city that says you can do X, and you've got 14 things that you can do. But then an HOA might have something that's stricter, and that's okay. An HOA can't permit something that a city wouldn't allow, but an HOA can certainly restrict something that a city would allow, because it's a private contract between the HOA and a private property owner.
Well, I think the speaker's saying that the HOA is preventing him to take advantage of SB 9.
I think that's what he said, too.
Yeah, so that's what's happening.
Because SB 9 is silent and
Okay.
doesn't specifically prohibit
All right.
HOAs from
And
enforcing.
when we rewrite this, wait, is SB 9 mentioned in our code as we speak?
Yes, remember, we did a comprehensive update to
Yeah, right.
SB 9 regulation.
So how are we going to amend our code to, accommodate SB 9 more, or?
Well, the SB 9 municipal code amendment that we're doing doesn't necessarily pertain to the HOAs, I don't think. This is the other, this is additional updates that have occurred to state law. I think the gentleman's point tonight was that, should staff remind applicants that, hey, just because, we permit it, we give you a permit for it, doesn't necessarily mean that you can go ahead and do it. You need to check with your HOA.
Okay.
And I believe with respect to SB 9, we actually do, I thought we did, advise the property owner and also contacted the HOA to make sure that they did communicate so that the property owner wouldn't go through. Whether, it appeared that didn't happen in this case, but I believe that that's what happens usually.
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't really know that. And just one other thing, on this business of the massage establishments. So, I think I was around when the California Massage Therapy Council was passed, and that kind of loosened the controls we have. And now we have a new AB 1147, which strengthened the controls that we can enforce. And so in talking to you earlier before the meeting, there would be things like distance requirements, correct? Meaning that two massage establishments couldn't be too close to each other or away from sensitive
uses, yes. So these regulations will be kind of in two different buckets. One will be the regulatory bucket, the business license permitting process, and then the other one will be in the land use context, zoning, where would we allow massage establishments prior to the passage of 1147. Remember, with the laws that were passed in 2009, cities basically were preempted of any type of enforcement in treating massage establishments any different than they would a doctor's office. So there were very little land use controls that we could impose on massage establishments. Given the new legislation that allows us more discretion to regain some of that local control, we can also impose not just permitting regulations, but also land use regulations.
So now we could potentially revoke a permit if there's violations, and
We have done that in the past. We've revoked licenses, and we've also sent notice to the state about revoking licenses as well. One of the biggest issues that we have learned is that if you let's say you revoke a permit for a particular massage establishment for doing something outside our regulations, the next day they would just have a new operator in the same location. So what some cities are doing is they're creating land use controls that basically prohibit that use from continuing at that precise location for a period of time. So that's kind of the stuff that staff's going to look into.
Oh, well, that sounds like a good thing to me. I mean, I'm sure the majority of our massage establishments play by the rules, but if there's some that step over the line, I mean, we want to be able to react accordingly. All right, thank you, Tracy.
My question for staff, two areas. First, I'm going to share with you the following. During the COVID lockdown, the California public schools lost some 270,000 students that left the public schools. The homeschool market grew tremendously. 3 areas of homeschooling exists in California. One is called the PSA, which is private school affidavit. And that's where the parent fills out an affidavit, says my child is being homeschooled in my home. Government, stay out of my life. Second is PSPs. They too fill out a public school affidavit. The instruction is usually out of the home. They affiliate with a charter school, a private school, or religious school. Third one is the credentialed tutor. This could be the parent who's got a teaching credential or a tutor that comes in. That also takes place within the school. They also fill out a private school affidavit called a PSA. Here's my challenge with what we're doing here, is that we now, in the state of California, allow for private schools to exist within people's homes. So much so that different models have evolved, where they may have one home which has a pod, which could be 4 or 5 families putting their kids there, and they're getting homeschooled right within the residential community. Second is many of the churches want to move into educating their congregation's children. Third, there's a lot of religious organizations, religious churches, temples, mosques, and so forth, that have assembly halls that they want to convert over into places of education, one-room schoolhouse, as I refer to it. My point being is that we already have private school education going on within the homes through the homeschool market. One of the initiatives that's being put forth, the Children's Educational Opportunity Act, allows for a credentialed school, accredited school, to be at least 10 students. And that could take place within someone's home to allow for affiliation with other students to come in. They're referred to as micro schools. What are we able to do to accommodate the growing homeschool market? The state of California recognizing it as a private school affidavit and a private school happening within the home, with these regulations that we're putting in place with the R1 and so forth. I'm putting this out to you because this exists, it's growing, they're in people's neighborhoods in R1s, they're already private schools recognized by the state. How do we handle that with the regulations we're moving forward with?
So it's a really good question, and it's largely nuanced. Primarily, schools in general, particularly public in nature, where most homeschooling takes place, is regulated by the state.
Say that one more time.
Most homeschooling, as you described it, is regulated by the state, the same as with any primary school, a middle school, or a high school.
Thank you, I got you.
And the distinction would be private schools, which don't necessarily operate in that way, and they don't have the same state protections as a public school, which allows the city to have some measure of regulation over them.
The PSAs, PSPs, and the credential tutoring, they're not necessarily under the auspices of the state of California per se. There is actually no law in place that uses the word homeschooling. It's a nebulous kind of entity out there. And the PSA, the private school affidavit, the PSPs, and the tutoring, they're happening out of people's homes. And this is considered a private school within the home. And the state is saying, go ahead and do it. So that's my question there. How do we accommodate those families so that way they're not restricted to having the homeschool happening in their own home for their own kids, or maybe groups of kids coming together? How do we accommodate that?
So so we're talking about 2 different types of instruction. I think what we're describing here with the homeschooling, this particular use matrix change wouldn't infringe on that. It would really be disconnected. It would really be more addressing, like I said, we're just getting to the very start of analyzing this, but we can get to the point where we only have this allowance as an ancillary part of perhaps an existing place of worship or any new place of worship that was coming in, and have it limited. So the focus here is allowing that church to exercise that right of wanting, like you said, to educate the children in whatever denomination or whatever way they feel the congregation would like, and that's never going to infringe upon the other options that we're talking about. And I'm somewhat familiar with some of the items you discussed, so there shouldn't be any kind of I guess impediment to any of that. It'll be just completely unrelated with the two.
Good to hear, because
Mayor,
I like education freedom, so that way the parents can find the best fit for their child and not dictated by the state or a government bureaucrat or central planner. Mr. Heher, yes, sir.
So I'm going to add that, as initially stated, if we're going to initiate this, we're going to look at a number of issues, and one of those is going to be state regulation that we have to use with schools, for example, our land use ability, our local authority to do land use, and we do actually monitor and sometimes regulate home-based occupations, for example, to some extent. And I think to your biggest point is when you start combining homeschooling, where it's really not a homeschool, it's starting to create more of a community kind of response, and people start attending one particular house, then you're starting to get impacts with traffic. And those are things that we would have to analyze and would be part of that analysis. Onto your point, and that's because we have these competing, but sometimes merging kind of uses that we want to make sure that we are analyzing both under state law, but also through our local authority that we can do. And some of those things we might not be able to initiate because state mandate says we can't, but some of them we can, and that's more of our local land use authority that we have. And so those, again, are things that we're looking at. Well, we will be looking at, for example, the traffic, how many you can have, the size it could be, minimum size, maximum size. All those issues need to be analyzed to all of your points tonight.
Perhaps we can address those traffic issues and so forth as the homeschool market continues to grow, because I know of parents who are retired teachers, children are all grown, and they have 10, 12 kids coming to their house every day for instruction and getting an excellent education. And I understand the traffic mitigation issue. Is that so many students maximum because of traffic? I don't know. But that's something perhaps down the road, if that becomes an issue, we can address. Second item is that, given my healthcare background, I can tell you that the use of massage therapeutically for musculoskeletal disorders has a tremendous benefit: increased blood flow, lymphatic drainage, increased range of motion, increased strength. It's unfortunate that there's a group that takes a very, very honored profession called massage therapy and has tainted it for the rest of the quality massage therapists out there. I'd like to, as a form of dialogue, to refer to it as a massage establishment, the massage business. The massage parlor is condescending and does not characterize the massage profession in a favorable way. That would be like saying a dental parlor or a surgeon's parlor or a podiatrist parlor. Do you follow my thought? So this council, I would like to change our terminology and remove that word parlor and honor and respect those who actually are doing something therapeutic that's very beneficial for quite a few people out there in our state. And yes, we did make a move here in California to remove the local control and put it in with other healthcare providers by having it state controlled. In the same way that myself as a chiropractor and acupuncturist, I don't have to have any special regulations because I'm regulated by the state of California. I get my business license, and that's about where it ends. So as we tread lightly on this issue with the massage businesses, yes, we have to have mechanisms, as Mr. Adam discusses, about pulling the trigger if they're actually not a legitimate therapeutic massage facility, but that of ill repute, of illicit sexual activities, which may have human trafficking and sex trafficking going on. I'm the biggest advocate of trying to get those women back to their lives that they had once before and get them out of that environment. So if your recommendations and research by staff can accommodate a balance between a legitimate therapeutic benefit from massage in a business that is well established and has historical perspective versus that of an illegal activity that doesn't impede and make it restrictive for those businesses that want to open and stay open, I strongly support that and encourage staff if they can move in that direction. And with that, any other questions? Mr. Newman.
This is more of a comment than a question, Mayor. Thank you. I just wanted to compliment staff, our police, our sheriff, and our district attorney for the reason that we're having this discussion tonight. There was an incident, there was a establishment. I think this one was not an establishment. It was doing what the mayor just referred to as illicit activity. Residents brought this to staff's attention. Staff acted on that. Staff got the police involved. The police got the sheriff and the DA involved. And it turned into a much wider investigation than just Thousand Oaks, and concluded successfully, in my mind, with arrests, and made this a safer community as a result. So I just wanted to add my kudos for what's been done so far, and I'm glad we're talking about ways we can make that process easier. Thank you.
The historical perspective on that, Mr. Newman, is that on Nextdoor, someone had posted the website and some of the wording that went to a resident that was sent this listing on Nextdoor to a friend in Simi Valley who showed it to her husband who knows me. He calls me, and next thing I know, I get the text with the images. I called city manager, who to his credit responded very quick, as well as Chief Jeremy Paris. Thank you for responding so quick. My challenge with our response is that, yes, we were able to make an arrest in this one instance. My frustration that I had, and I understand the district attorney's challenges, is that of the Ventura County area, there were 77 under investigation in various stages. Not enough evidence was available to actually go in and make arrests at a good number of these. Some did have raids that went in and arrested and stopped the activity, but the vast majority of them, they basically were notified the landlord saying that they're violating their lease and to discontinue business in the hopes that they would leave the county. Unfortunately, that did not do anything to rescue and return those women who may be sex trafficked or human trafficked back to their family in a normal life. That was my challenge. That was what I had a lengthy discussion with one of the assistant district attorneys with, and it just comes down to resources, as it was explained to me, and I understand that we cannot do a simultaneous raid on 77 illicit businesses here in Ventura County and rescue all those women who need to be returned to their families in normal life again. They're imprisoned. They deserve to go back to a normal life, but they're not. So all we did was move the problem to another county. Some we arrested, some perhaps we returned back to family and normal environment again. But that's the challenge, Mr. Newman and everyone else here on council, is that we don't have the resources. Unfortunately, we do the best we can with what we've got, and I applaud our city staff. Mr. Powers, thank you. Chief Paris, the district attorney, Eric Nasirenko, for acting on this and taking it seriously. And that's the best we can do, and my apologies to those that moved out of the county and we didn't make arrests. To those that we did arrest, we did a good job. Mr. Powers, do you have any comment? And with that, Madam Clerk, I see that we don't have any public comment at this point. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we will go to any council discussion. We've had lengthy discussions so far with staff. Is there any additional before we move to a motion? Any additional discussion? Because right now we're looking, Mr. Adam, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, if the discussion's over, I'll move 12B, municipal code amendment updates.
Recommendations 1 through 2, 1 and 2, is that correct?
Yes.
It's a lot of letters there, aren't there? Madam Clerk, would you please call the vote, please?
Do we have discussion on the motion?
No, we already did the discussion, but he's moving a motion. If we have discussion, feel free, Mr. Engler.
Yeah, we usually do discussion on the motion if there's a motion, but I'm fine with the updates on all the regulations that have come down from the state. But as I mentioned before, I can't for the life of me think why we would impose a sweeping change to our single-family residence neighborhoods, a potential sweeping change, that we would impose it on ourselves. We've taken hits on the SB 9. SB 9 is ministerial approval of lot splits. ADUs, ministerial approval. There are a number. We have residential care facilities approved without any input from the city. We have rehab homes approved without any input from the city. Why would we open the door for this? I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with all the other ones, but this one I think is too broad a net that we're casting to try to address what is in effect. We talk about a religious location, but that's not what we're looking at in our staff report. We're looking at R1 residential, an entire zoning classification that may be changed. So as I go back to my original thought, why are we doing such a wide net when, in fact, we're trying to address specific locations? I don't know why we would do that to ourselves.
Any other discussion? Mr. Newman?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to concur with my colleague, Councilmember Engler, on this, in that I think there is a bit of a wag the dog situation, if you will, where the folks who are in residential R1 zones bought their properties with a reasonable expectation of living in R1 zones. And changing that after the fact is something we have the power to do, but we're really not talking about, as Councilmember Engler has clearly pointed out, we're not talking about a citywide need. We're talking about one property at this particular point in time. And there, as Mr. Parker noted, there may be several other currently non-conforming uses, but in total, it's several. It's not a citywide issue. Further, we're talking about what Mr. Parker called an ancillary use to something that R1 already permits, which is religious establishments. We're not talking about a different class of school that the mayor talked about. That's something different, and that's out of scope for the discussion before us here. We're talking about what to do with this small handful, and currently application is number one of non-conforming uses. And so I think there is as I said at the outset, a tail wagging the dog kind of quality to this, where we can fix this by treating ancillary uses as ancillary and not changing the entire zoning structure for the entire city to solve this micro-targeted issue that we have. So anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying I agree with Councilmember Engler on this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? We'll move the vote.
Councilmember Engler?
No.
Councilmember Newman?
No.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamee?
Yes.
And that motion passes 3-2 with Councilmembers Engler and Newman voting no.
Next up, we have the 12C, Cannabis Operation Update. City staff, thank you for your good work on this. Representing the city staff to present the report is Melissa Hurtado, Assistant to the City Manager. Melissa, when you get settled in, please feel free to begin. We also have Chief Assistant City Attorney, Patrick Eher.
Good evening, Mayor McNamee and City Council members. Last year, City Council approved an amendment to the Thousand Oaks Municipal Code to allow for sales of adult use cannabis by our 2 retail dispensaries. At that meeting, staff was asked to return in 1 year to provide an update on cannabis operations. So our presentation tonight will include an update on our 2 retail operators, information from the Thousand Oaks Police Department, an update on our approved testing laboratory operator, and we will inform you of recent inquiries and options available to you to consider as it relates to the cannabis ordinance. So our 2 cannabis operators have reported that the addition of adult use cannabis was critical to the vitality of their businesses. They have experienced growth in revenue, and both businesses report a stable employee base. Legendary Organics has 13 full-time and 1 part-time employees. Leaf has 20 full-time and 5 part-time employees. The revenue increases have also resulted in tax revenue to the city that is 3 to 4 times the amount it was prior to the implementation of adult use sales. The city's finance department is planning on conducting financial audits in the next calendar year. So each of our 2 retail operators were inspected for compliance with the requirements set forth in the cannabis ordinance and their respective operations agreements. One of the 2 facilities was overall in compliance with the requirements. One facility had not implemented one requirement, and the operator, staff, and Thousand Oaks Police Department will be getting together to discuss the matter and work on a resolution. The Thousand Oaks Police Department reported that there were no calls for service to the 2 dispensaries that were directly related to the cannabis operations. Earlier this month, TOPD conducted an operation in which they attempted to purchase and have cannabis delivered to Thousand Oaks by businesses who did not have Thousand Oaks business tax certificates. So companies that are state licensed are permitted to deliver cannabis to Thousand Oaks, provided that they maintain a city business tax certificate and provide certain information such as vehicle and driver information. 3 delivery businesses were cited for the violation of this section of our municipal code. While the City Council had previously approved an operator to open a cannabis testing laboratory, due to several reasons, the selected company, Atlas QAL, did not move forward with completing their permit to operate. The city has not received any new interest specifically for the operation of a testing laboratory. The cannabis ordinance permits up to 2 testing laboratories within the city's jurisdiction. Staff recommends we maintain this number for this foreseeable future. So as you saw in the staff report, there have been several amendments to the cannabis ordinance over the years, and the current municipal code allows for 2 retail operators and 2 testing laboratories. But City Council does have the discretion to consider expanding the number of operators and allowing different types of business activities such as manufacturing or distribution. While there have been some recent inquiries from parties interested in opening additional retail dispensaries, we have not received any inquiries for additional types of uses. So staff's recommendation tonight is to receive this report, and if council so wishes, to provide direction to staff to explore options to amend the cannabis ordinance. As noted, we had specific requests from parties interested in opening commercial retail, but no other expressed interest in other types of cannabis operations under state law. So both Mr. Heher and I are available for questions, as we also have Chief Paris from the Thousand Oaks Police Department that is with us tonight that can answer additional questions.
Thank you. Council, any questions? Mr. Taylor.
This seems to be perfect timing. Mr. Engler and I were in Sacramento last week for the National League of Cities event, and we both ended up in one of the rooms about cannabis in the industry where a lot of city council members were there. And there were a couple questions, or in some cases complaints, that we kind of heard over and over. So I kind of want to ask if our experience as a city is similar to theirs. One thing that they were complaining about a lot was basically due to heavy taxes and regulations on the industry, that in a lot of these cities, the operators were being undercut by kind of the black market in a sense. Are we seeing something similar to that here?
I don't think, not being in the industry myself, I can answer that. We actually do have one of our retail operators, David McFarland with the Leaf Group with us, if you do have questions about, from a sort of industry perspective, on whether or not they feel they are being undercut in that way. But having only 2 dispensaries in our city, we're not hearing a lot of that chatter going on in our end of the world.
Okay,
And let me also add just that when we initially adopted the ordinances, we also adopted in the next year the cannabis tax, and that is can go up to 6%, but right now it's at 4%. So that is something in which, again, was standard throughout the industry when we were adopting that number. And so, again, for the local jurisdiction, we are very reasonable, in my opinion, based upon looking at across the state as a whole for the local jurisdiction. Again, with the state adding their own taxes and regulations, that is a different story.
Okay. And then the other thing that was kind of the reoccurring theme was for the cities that embrace this growing industry, it seems like they kind of went all in. It was multiple cities talking about how they just kind of opened the doors in a sense. And they were very hopeful that, the booming economy was going to kind of bleed over to the growth of the city. And from what it sounds like the industry as a whole is going through a pretty tough time right now. And so what you heard over and over from many council members was, one, we're kind of looking forward to what it could become. And right now we're all feeling the pain of it, where we have more, whether it's operators or retailers that are struggling in this time than thriving. And so I guess my question to you is, do you feel like we're at a good balance right now, or do you feel like there's just a ton of demand that we're not capturing? Because just hearing that opinion over and over, I think my concern would be, I want the businesses that come into our community to succeed. And so how we kind of roll that out, I think it's important to be strategic with it.
Maybe I'll just offer a point off the top, because I think it's important from a policy perspective, because this cannabis policy has spanned multiple councils at this point. And I think this council in particular was one of the first out of the gate to address this on countywide in Ventura County. And I think have struck some reasonable equilibrium through that process, and adapting where it needs to be, working with our providers to bring the adult use component forward when that was clearly a challenge, dealing with the change to delivery, which happened midstream in this process. So I think what has happened for those communities that you spoke of that went all in is that the rules changed dramatically around that. And then when you're talking about undercutting, when you're oversaturated, and I'm sure our operator that's here can speak to that fact, when you're oversaturated, it's very difficult, as with any business, to be successful.
So let me add that when we started this process years ago now, we were initially focused on medicinal cannabis, right? And that policy of providing that as a source for the Ventura County, the East Ventura County residents who came numerous times to council to express their need for medicinal cannabis, instead of having to go all the way to the valley for that use, right? So the tax issue or that number really wasn't a major factor. It was a factor, it was an issue, but it wasn't the major force of the initial push to allow. And we had a number of licenses that we could actually present to council, and ultimately council decided to do the two, which was the commercial retail for medicinal, and then the laboratory testing laboratory, right? As Mr. Power stated, in talking to our current operators in Thousand Oaks, we of course discussed competition and all that kind of stuff, right? And I will say that I've looked at other cities, and what happens when you have an influx of so many of them, and you have some jurisdiction in which like you said, they went all in, right? They said, hey, this is a great tax revenue. We're going to come in here and we're going to add as many as we can, all types of different licenses. And then one, they don't have the capacity for the number of people to use it, right? And then what happens is they start undercutting each other. And then what happens is the one that goes out of business says, okay, well, black market's still available, and and now you have that whole issue, right? So to your specific point about our city, I would say this, that we just started with the two in 1 year for the adult use addition to it. The other major factor is that when we initially started this, it is only allowed in the M1 zone, right? And this kind of goes back to the discussion in the previous topic, right? And so it is very difficult to find locations that are available in the M1 zone that meets all the requirements, including the sensitive uses that might be nearby, And as council knows, we've had a number of times where it was difficult to find the right location. And the second location, the second operator, Leaf, they had, I think, 3 or even 4 locations before they found the one that they could get into, for a number of reasons, by the way, but that's what makes it difficult as well.
So I'll finish up with this then for the council that was here before me, and I know firsthand now how hard the staff works on the reports. What I was hearing in that room was nothing like we've experienced here. So I'm very thankful for the policy that, you before me have put in place. We have a good thing going on with this city, so good work.
Mr. Engler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just as a side, one of the cities that was mentioned in our group, I believe, had 63 distributors in a town of about 65,000 people. And the result of that was cannibalization of each other. But they went back to the city looking for relief on taxes and things like that, just to try to stay in business. We took the opposite tack here, approved two vendors for our products here. I heard someone describe our vendors as the Apple Store of cannabis distributors. That's the type that we looked at. So I think I have just a couple of questions just to make sure that we're in good shape. I know when we first decided to do this, there was quite a bit of discussion on whether this would lead to underage sales and underage usage. Has there been a noticeable increase in either of those two things, underage sales or any underage usage?
None of those two facilities, certainly not reported. It is important to know that they have to obviously check, and they're very strict at that because of the operations agreement. So any violation of that would make their agreement, at least subject to cancellation, and they definitely want to avoid that. Again, with cannabis, you have a number of situations which might be citations, but not related to these two cannabis facilities specifically.
And there was another concern that there would be usage of the product on or near the premises. Has there been any of that?
I'd have to go look at the citations that we have received as far as locations. I certainly would say that there's probably going to be locations where the citations are being issued that might be near a facility, but it would be definitely hard to pinpoint it to one particular facility. So again, we want to be careful about that. Again, just like alcohol or other issues, you can have people who get alcohol, for example, from a store, and then they immediately go to a parking lot and they open it up and they're doing something illegal based upon law.
Do you mind if I ask our police chief if there's been any noticeable sign of that, of usage in the area on site? Or if there has been, have you been able to trace it back to our vendors, or is it another source?
So when we make any marijuana arrest in the city, we're not typically asking where people got it from. They're pretty closed mouth about that, as you can imagine. And if they do, that information is used confidentially to go bust drug dealers. So I wouldn't be able to pass any of that on. But we haven't received any reports of people complaining that from like other businesses or the neighbors of those businesses that people are using the product there.
You say you have heard?
We have not received
thank
any
you.
complaints of that.
And has there been any increase in DUIs throughout the area that you could trace back to our operations?
We've had an increase in DUIs, but nothing we could trace back to the dispensaries, no.
Okay. Thank you.
On the taxation side, if you were to add the state tax, city tax, local tax, whether it be county or whatever, what is the total amount of the tax that is put onto the marijuana sale? All those combined.
The city tax is 4%, and I can have actually David confirm for us that the state tax is 15%? Excise 15%. And then your regular sales tax of 7.25%. So the city tax being 4%, and that is flexible based on council approval or direction.
So we're talking 26% right here. Is that close enough? Good enough. Because the idea was that we were going to bring this in, I'll make it legal for anyone to buy over 18 years of age, and we get tax revenue out of it. And 26% is a pretty heavy hit. Okay. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment? No. Let's move to council discussion then. Mr. Adam?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was around when this whole thing started, and you have to remember historically we were approached strictly in regards to medicinal cannabis in a humanitarian way. Some people were suffering with different maladies, and they really believed that the cannabis would help them. So we did go along with opening a couple facilities to offer medicinal. But it wasn't long after that when those facilities came back to us and said, we're turning away 50% of the people because they don't have a medicinal marijuana card. Pardon me. So it became clear that these businesses in the long run would not be viable unless they were able to also offer adult use or recreational use. And so we did go along with that. And I guess that must have worked because the staff report says the sales take's up 3 to 4 times what it was. I think they're very well run. But one of the questions in the staff report, would we be in favor of any more? And I personally would not be in favor of the proliferation of any more cannabis establishments at this point. I think the 2 that we have are sufficient, and I think they're placed well in a good location. I think they're run very well, and for me, I think that's my limit here in the city of Thousand Oaks.
I'd like to compliment the facilities we have, having taken a tour and seen the beautiful facilities, the interior. They're in Newberry Park up in the industrial area, so it's up and out of the way. Thus, you have some control over who comes in and who goes out with the ingress, egress. Beautiful facilities, interiors terrific. There are quality control as they go through on the product coming in. Highly compliment them for the look of the store. Again, we're talking 26% sales tax as this emerged here in our state. One of the arguments that municipalities had was that this is a great revenue generator. We can tax it. Well, as you find in economics, if you tax something way too much, the black market grows because they can buy the same product at a lesser price. It's what I refer to as Nordstrom versus Costco. You always have a Nordstrom market out there that's willing to pay a high price for quality, but there's another group out there that will buy it at Costco for the lower price of 15% over what the manufacturers cost to make it. So that was blown out of the market because as taxes go up, increased more to the black market. This originally was brought in under the guise of we would decrease the illegal grow markets that we have locally because now it's going to be available in these stores. We were told that you would decrease the illegal importation from outside the country, bringing it in. We would again have increased tax revenue for the cities. The camel's nose got in under the tent under the guise of medicinal marijuana. And yes, there's quality studies out there that show that there's medicinal benefit for some conditions with marijuana. The National Institutes of Health should and is right now doing studies to look at where it can be applicable. To that population, they should have access to it because there's medicinal benefit to it. Challenge is, though, it's a Schedule I drug right up there with crystal meth, LSD, and heroin, which has no therapeutic benefit. Thank you, Congress. What has resulted after making this legal is that we've had an increased amount of grow houses because they want to get into the market because the market has expanded and exploded by making this legal. In Northern California, for example, day laborers standing out at Home Depot are picked up in vans thinking that those day laborers are going to go paint a house. They're taken 2 hours into the hills in Northern California, and they're made into slave labor to grow marijuana with no way of getting out. They're basically human slaves. We have law enforcement in that area that may only have 2 or 3 deputies and 1 sheriff for a large area who are outmanned and outgunned. And our state of California governor and legislator are ignoring that situation where the drug cartels from outside this country have set up grow fields in our state and are being ignored. So much so that these drug cartels literally take over a city by controlling their city council and their school boards by getting people elected from their group. We have illegal purchases that are being made because they're searching for the lowest price for that marijuana, because if the best you've got is $20, if you go to one of these wonderful facilities we have that are illegal, it costs you $100 and all they have is $20. They do that. And I remember the chief of police here mentioning how we've had a number of crimes that took place in the transaction of these illegal sales where someone was robbed. So crime has gone up, even with the legal drugs, marijuana shops. Importation into the country has increased. We have more marijuana coming over the borders right now than ever before. Some cities have had increased tax revenue, like Port Hueneme. They love it. We've had, in my own practice, working with the public, increased divorces, spouses that decide that they just want to sit around and smoke pot all day and get the feel good. There's children in high school and middle school that are getting access to this because it's more readily available. Yes, they can't sell to anyone under 18 years of age, but yet they get access to it because there's more on the street now because it's legally purchased by someone over 18, and they get it. Teachers are complaining that their kids can't pay attention. They're off in another zone, and they're not getting an education. We have here, in the 1960s, the active ingredient in marijuana was 6%. Today, it's over 30%, and if you do it correctly with vaping and so forth, you can get 100%. This is not the marijuana of the 1960s. This stuff is potent. It's capturing the hearts and minds of our youth. They're getting their feel-good, not from reading a book, learning a skill, helping a neighbor, getting a job, earning a paycheck, saving to buy something. They're getting their feel-good from sitting at home and smoking pot because it's more readily available because it's legal. We've had increased driving under the influence due to marijuana. I can't tell you the number of times I'm driving down the street and the person in the car in front of me is smoking marijuana, and I can smell it coming back into my car. So again, the answer to me is on the federal level. There are some that benefit from this medicinally. Congress should move this from a Schedule I drug to a Schedule III drug, where it is prescribed by the healthcare provider. It's included in the pharmacopoeia. It's regulated by the Board of Pharmacy in the state of California. It's distributed by the pharmacies we already have in place. The mechanism is there. Plus, the sale of the marijuana is now able to be deposited. The monies, the revenue is able to be deposited in the bank, in a federal bank. So I have been opposed to this from day one. It's the biggest mistake we have made in our country to legalize marijuana for recreational adult use. It's destroying our country from within. It's a gateway drug to bigger and better drugs. Ask any homeless person on that street, and they all started off with marijuana. I am vehemently opposed to expanding any marijuana facilities in this city. I think we could change this nationwide by moving it from a Schedule I to Schedule III, but that's above my pay grade, because we need to get back to those things which are important in life. And with that, Council, any other discussion before we have a motion?
I'd like to make a
Quick, Mayor, as far as the sales tax business, that was never a consideration.
Never said it was.
When we first approached this topic. And in fact, it's sales tax that's driving the black market. unfortunately. But anyway, as far as our city goes with our 2 shops, we weren't concerned about sales tax. It was totally different.
And I agree, but that's what, again, was in the media, and that was throughout the state, that there was looked
Some
at as
cities are.
success. I understand your point that this was not Thousand Oaks, and that was not in consideration. I got that,
Yeah,
but I'm just pointing out throughout the state, that's what we were
No, I
being told.
understand. I understand. I just, you know,
Mr.
I
Mayor,
didn't want you to think that, anybody to think that we got into this to make a fortune on sales tax. That was not it. Some cities, I guess, do, because Bob mentioned a city with, what, 65,000 people with 63 cannabis shops?
Mr. Engler?
Wow.
Go ahead.
If we can get back to the subject at hand, we have a motion, I think, to make on our recommendations from our staff on accepting the report and giving any feedback. My feedback would be that, similar to Mr. Adam, is that we currently have a working system that is working within the state law, providing our residents with an approved and safe product, as opposed to many of the things that you talked about, which are illegal drugs. You can get illegal Valium on the street too, that's cut with pheno. So I think we're comparing apples with watermelons. So the thing before us tonight is whether we should expand this process here, or whether we should continue on with what we have, accept the report, and keep our eye on this business in town. And I would motion for that.
Mr. Newman?
I think one of the important points to make in the report, I hope all my colleagues will grasp this, is that I think we're less than a year into adult use marijuana, and around the same time frame, I think, for home delivery. So it is relatively early days. We're still evaluating this, and for those reasons, from my perspective, I would support the comments Councilmember Engler and Councilmember Adam made about keeping things where we are now, given that it's only been a year or less under the current regime. And I think that current regime seems to be working okay. So for that reason, I'll support the motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Taylor, any comments?
It's more of the same. I totally agree.
Just to conclude with Mr. Adam, I remember in our discussion that a council member did say that we already have marijuana being brought into the city from outside. We're missing out on those tax revenues. We should have our 2 dispensaries so that way we can capture that lost tax revenue. Just my recollection from the discussion. Mm-hmm. So with that, Madam Clerk, would
I
you
just want
please?
to make sure that we've got the motion. So the motion is to receive the report, make no changes to our cannabis regulations, and find that the action is not a project under CEQA.
Thank you. I forgot that last piece there. Thank you.
Now we can call the vote.
Councilmember Engler?
Yes.
Councilmember Newman?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Adam?
Yes.
And Mayor McNamee?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0.
Next up, Mr. Power.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Next meeting will be the 10th of October, and we will have, just as a heads up to the public, we're going to actually do a little bit of an interesting 5 o'clock rather than a closed session. We have West Rippless Hospital is coming in 5 p.m. that evening to do an abbreviated CPR training as part of Preparedness Month, and so get the chance for the council to get refreshed on that and some other staff. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there. We do have currently slated 2 public hearings that we're working through: our inclusionary housing program, non-residential development linkage fee update, and an appeal to a planning commission decision on a proposed 30-unit apartment complex that is at 179 Herbs Road. Also working on a couple of additional department reports, but the main focus is those public hearings for now.
Mr. Power, question for you. Is the CPR class because we're heading into some contentious issues just in case things get out of control?
No, it is done in conjunction with Preparedness Month, but also I think, I had a pretty sobering conversation with one of your colleagues earlier this summer who had an experience in their office where someone had an acute event, and it was sort of a good refresher and reminder. It's an opportunity to do this.
Thank you, sir. Tonight, we are adjourning in memory of a prominent community member, Eloise Cohen, who passed away in early August. Eloise, through her leadership and energy, was a community advocate with an unwavering dedication to the arts and support of cultural institutions, including the construction of the Thousand Oaks Civic Arts Plaza. She and her husband, Chuck Cohen, former Thousand Oaks mayor, were the Conejo Valley's first couple for many years and embodied the spirit of leadership and philanthropy, leaving a legacy of artistic enrichment within Thousand Oaks. In 2017, they were honored by the Association of Fundraising Professionals as Volunteers of the Year. As the daughter of the late Reverend Dr. Raymond Olson, who served as the second president of the California Lutheran, Eloise grew up as part of the campus community and graduated from what was then California Lutheran College in 1971. Eloise enjoyed a professional career in private practice at the Family Counseling Center of the Oaks and was the assistant director of the Harold Stoner Clark Lectures at CLU. Eloise was closely involved with the CLU Center for Nonprofit Leadership and was founding advisory board member and donor. Eloise was vice chair of the TO Arts Board of Directors and served since its inception in 2017. She was a long-serving member of the TO Arts predecessor organization, the Alliance for the Arts. She prominently served on the Thousand Oaks Cultural Affairs Commission and the Thousand Oaks Library Foundation as a trustee. Eloise carried on the legacy of her father, had started and worked to elevate the arts throughout the community. She embodied the vision of supporting a community where the arts thrive for all. Eloise was an accomplished photographer and lived in Westlake Village with Chuck, her husband, of over 40 years, and the family of 4 children, 4 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Eloise's commitment to community partnership and grassroots efforts left an indelible mark on the cultural enrichment in Thousand Oaks. We mourn her loss and celebrate her life and all her accomplishments. Chuck, Tom, my wife Catherine, and I extend our deepest condolences. We're also adjourning tonight's City Council meeting in memory of Karen Underlin, who was a member of our city's professional family, working 15 years as a full-time employee from 2004 to 2019. Karen was employed by the City of Thousand Oaks as a member of the accounting team and won recognition as a reliable, dedicated worker who provided extraordinary service to city residents she interacted with. Throughout her career in the City Public Works and Finance departments, Karen was promoted several times, including to accounting specialist in 2008 and senior accounting customer service representative in 2018. Her city coworkers remember that you will never find Karen in a bad mood, and she was always the one you could count on to cheer you up. Karen made amazing creative homemade birthday cards, was an expert in the craft of crocheting, and delighted in decorating her cubicle with plants, creating her own miniature forest. She consistently volunteered to raise funds to improve the lives of cancer survivors by participating in the city's Relay for Life team. All who were fortunate enough to share Karen's good company will remember her professionalism and fun-loving nature. She will be deeply missed by her family, many friends, and her co-workers. And with that, this meeting is adjourned.